In the heart of West Africa, there once stood a city of unimaginable wealth, power, and mystery, the Kingdom of Benin. A city so grand its walls rivaled the Great Wall of China, and its artistry was so refined that European explorers called it one of the greatest wonders of the world. But in 1897, this mighty kingdom met its downfall in a brutal and devastating invasion. This is the story of the Benin Expedition, a clash of empires and the looting of one of Africa's greatest civilizations. To understand the significance of what happened, we must go back to the spiritual and political heart of Benin. At its center was the Oba, a ruler so revered that he was considered a god among men. Legend spoke of Ofwe, the chilling messenger of Ogiwu, the merciless god of death, who could be sent by the Oba to end the life of anyone who dared to defy him. The Oba's power was so absolute, his presence untouchable. No stranger could address him directly. Even the mightiest envoys knelt before him, speaking only through intermediaries. But in 1897, this godlike status was shattered. The roots of this catastrophe stretch back to 1892, when Oba Ovarame signed a free trade agreement with the British. At the time, Britain had abandoned the slave trade and turned its focus to the lucrative palm oil industry. The British wanted unhindered access to the region's resources, but control over trade routes remained in the hands of the Benin rulers and their Ishekiri middlemen. As tensions mounted, the Ishekiri stopped paying tribute to the Oba, and in response, he placed an embargo on trade. This was a bold move that disrupted the British economic interests, causing unrest among merchants and British officials alike. Calls for the Oba's removal grew louder, and by late 1896, James R. Phillips, the British Consul General in the region, decided to take matters into his own hands. Phillips sent word to the Oba announcing his intention to visit and discuss trade. He even sent gifts to sweeten the deal. But there was one problem. Phillips had chosen the worst possible time. The Igwe festival, the most sacred time of the year, was on the way. During this period, the Oba was forbidden from seeing visitors. He sent word asking the British to wait a few months, but Phillips refused. Driven by arrogance and commercial urgency, he and his party of around 250 men pushed forward towards Benin City. What happened next would alter history forever. On January 4, 1897, just outside the city, Benin warriors ambushed Phillips' expedition. The British, unprepared and outmatched, were slaughtered. Of the entire party, only 2 British men survived, wounded and barely escaping with their lives. News of the massacre reached London within days, and the British response was swift and brutal. The empire sought revenge, and the mission became known as the Benin Punitive Expedition. On February 9, 1897, a force of 1,200 British soldiers and African auxiliaries set out for Benin. They were armed with Maxim machine guns, mobile artillery, and advanced rifles, deadly weapons that far outclassed the swords and muskets of the Benin warriors. It was not a battle, it was an extermination. As they approached the city, the British soldiers encountered gruesome scenes. Human sacrifices scattered along the roads, victims left to die in agonizing positions. Some British accounts suggested that these sacrifices were last-minute efforts by Benin priests to call upon their gods for protection against the impending doom. When the British reached Benin City, They unleashed destruction. The walls of the great kingdom fell. Its people were slaughtered and its treasures were plundered. The once mighty Obalvarame fled, leaving the city to be burnt and looted. The British seized thousands of priceless artifacts, bronzes, ivory carvings, ancestral relics, all of them stolen and shipped to museums and private collectors in Europe. Among the looted treasures were the sacred bells used by the Oba and his priests to summon the spirits of the ancestors, the very soul of Benin. Eventually, the British caught up with Obalvarame. With 2 of his 80 wives, he was captured, deposed, and exiled to Calabar, where he would die in 1914. That same year, the British allowed his son to return to Benin and restore the monarchy. But the kingdom would never again gain its former glory. Today, the legacy of the Benin Expedition lives on, not just in the ruins of the past, but in the ongoing struggle for justice. Many of the stolen Benin bronzes remain in European museums, their rightful return still a topic of heated debate. The descendants of Oba Ovarame continue to rule in Benin City, preserving what remains of the once great kingdom. The story of Benin is a story of power, betrayal, resilience, and survival. A kingdom that once stood tall, now remembered through the echoes of history and the treasures that still sit behind glass cases in faraway lands. If you have found this story fascinating, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more incredible tales of African history. Until next time, remember, history is not just the past, it's the foundation of our future.